Good evening. I'm John Voido, a volunteer with AARP New Jersey. Thank you for joining us for our second Melodies of the Garden State Facebook Live. This is a four-part series where once per week we discuss the link between music and brain health and explore the unique history of music right here in the Garden State. Our next segment will take place on Tuesday, September 29th at 5:30 p.m. here on the AARP New Jersey Facebook page. According to a new report from the AARP-funded Global Council on Brain Health, music can enhance a sense of well-being, reduce stress, facilitate interpersonal connections, modulate the cardiovascular system, improve balance, and boost the immune system. Now, here's a question to all our listeners. Do you ever feel better after listening to music? There is clear evidence that listening to music you like can help improve mood and decrease anxiety. This includes listening to music in the background, attending musical performances, and focused listening to recorded music. One of the suggestions I like from the report is to make music yourself. Music making can include both singing and playing an instrument. This can offer a sense of mastery and self esteem while enhancing brain activity. Imaging has revealed that even in short term practice on a piano can increase brain activity for inexperienced students. What's even better than making music yourself? Making music with other people. This can generate positive feedback that enhances self esteem and provides a satisfying sense of accomplishment. It can also create friendly new bonds that can reduce the feeling of isolation. For more information and to read the full report, visit aarp.org/brainhealth. Again, that's aarp.org/brainhealth. Now, for a little more on our Melodies of the Garden State Facebook Live series. Each week, we will be joined by Professor Duer McLeod. Professor McLeod earned his BA from Eugene Lang College at the New School and his PhD from the City University of New York Graduate Center. Currently, he teaches at William Patterson University with a focus on the history of popular culture, rock and roll, suburbia, and U.S. foreign policy. He is the author of a new book called Making Scene in the Garden State: Popular Music in New Jersey from Edison to Springsteen and Beyond. Each week, Professor McLeod will share engaging educational information about certain genre of music. Then we will have a New Jersey-based musician play live and original music for us. We also want to make this interactive for our viewers. If you have a question or comment for our guests, please type them into the comment section below. We want to hear from you. And of course, we can't have a virtual musical performance without a drink. Each week, we will be sharing a New Jersey inspired cocktail recipe. Alcoholic or non alcoholic, your choice and completely optional. For our second virtual cocktail hour, we are having the New Brunswick. This recipe is a twist on a New Jersey classic, the Marconi Wireless. The Marconi Wireless is named for Guglielmo Marconi, the Italian inventor and engineer known for his pioneering work in long-distance radio transmission. The Marconi Wireless station was in New Brunswick. Here is the recipe. Take 2.5 ounces of layered straight apple brandy, 3/4 ounces of Carpano Antica Formula or sweet vermouth, 1/4 ounce of gum syrup or heavy sugar syrup made with 2 parts sugar and 1 part water, and 3 dashes of Dale de Groff bitters, which are pin, uh, pimento bitters, which are basically allspice bitters, if you can find it, and combine all the ingredients in a mixing glass with ice. Stir well and straight into a chilled cocktail glass. Garnish with a twist of orange. For our next Melodies of Garden State segment, we'll be looking for new New Jersey inspired cocktail recipes, and we want to hear it from you. Do you have a favorite New Jersey drink? If so, please share it in a recipe in the comment section. It could be featured on our next Facebook Live on Tuesday, September 29 at 5:30 p.m. Now, while we have all our drinks in hand, let's get to Professor McLeod, who will be focusing tonight's segment on New Jersey's contribution to the jazz scene. Professor McLeod, thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you on, and we are looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks, John. Really, really great to be back here today. And I love the stuff you do when you talk about the brain and does it, listening to music ever make you feel good? Yes, pretty much all the time. And my interest in music and in New Jersey music is I'm really interested in how people feel and how they experience making music and getting together to share music. So I'm going to talk tonight about one particular place where some of the greatest music in the world was created, right here in New Jersey, and was the recording studios of Rudy Van Gelder in Hackensack, and then later in Englewood Cliffs. And so let me just take you through this. All comes from my recent book, Making the Scene in the Garden State: Popular Music in New Jersey, from Edison to Springsteen and beyond. So Rudy Van Gelder emerges in the post-World War II era, right at the same time as this new type of jazz comes along called bebop. And bebop really took place in these sort of after-hours jam sessions and improvisations in the clubs that after the sort of big band groups would play, the musicians would get together with each other, with themselves, and just play all night long. And at the same time, Rudy was becoming an optometrist of all things, in Hackensack and living in his parents' house. But he was really fascinated with jazz and especially with recording, and loved recording. So when his father was building their house, he said, "Could you make space for me to have a recording studio in the living room?" And so here we have the house in Hackensack that Rudy's sitting in. In the background is the sort of roll-top screen that came down between this room and the living room. And so he started recording jazz, and he was one of the rare people who could really capture the feeling of the live spirit and the live sound. And so I'm going to take you through some amazing pictures taken by Francis Wolf, one of the owners of Blue Note Records. And I really love these photos because they capture what the experience was like. And that's Kenny Clark sitting in the back, who was a drummer. And he said that Rudy was the first guy who could really capture the sound of his drums. And he played there so often that they called his corner there Kluk's Corner after him. But again, you can see the Venetian blinds in the back there, and the little door that slides by. And you can see the placement of the microphones. Rudy was a fanatic about microphones, and he was a pioneer in using new technologies. But he also, he was very friendly. People loved Rudy, even though he wasn't a jazz guy at all in terms of personality. But he was a jazz artist of his own, on his own right. And but his thing was his techniques of recording and his technologies, and he didn't like to share. So I'm not sure if anybody really knows to this day, and he just passed away a few years ago, what exactly he did, how exactly he created his sound. But you see the placement of the microphones. And I was speaking with a friend of mine who's a musician who never recorded there, but he said, just from hearing stories about Rudy Van Gelder, he never touches a microphone when he's in a studio, because it was the only thing that he was very mellow and low key, but it was the only thing that would make him snap at you is if you touched his microphones. But we see the beautiful sort of, the experience of what it's like. So you see, here's Miles Davis. We all know Miles Davis. But I just love the humanity of this photo. And you see him, he might be recording, but he kind of looks more like he's rehearsing. He's just sitting back and playing and getting the feel. And even though they're in this small place, I guess because they're in this small place, which is like a club, they come together and and relax and play this extraordinary music. And Miles was another one that, if you know jazz, you know his trumpet sound, and that sound that is the sound that Rudy created and captured. Obviously, Miles created it, but it's through Rudy's recording that we know this best. And just one of the most famous stories of recording at Rudy's was the Christmas Eve 1954 sessions, where there's a story of Miles and Thelonious Monk almost getting in a fight. And I looked at it closely and discovered it really didn't happen. One thing, because Thelonious Monk was about 6'3", and Miles wasn't so crazy as to take him on in a fight, but he had told Monk to lay back and not play during his solo. So there's a little conflict over that. It was Christmas Eve, things were getting late. They were there because it was a good night to record, but they wanted to get home. And speaking of Monk, I just heard a great story that I want to share with you. I met this guy, Des Cadena, whose father was Ozzie Cadena, who was a New Jersey producer and A&R man in the jazz world. And his son Des became a singer and guitarist for Black Flag and later the Misfits, so totally different world in the punk rock world. But I met Des and I just said, tell me some stories about your father. And he told me a story about Monk was playing at, and I didn't even tell him I'd written this book, but he said, oh, Monk was playing at Van Gelder's studio. And they knew with Monk, when he walked in, you just hit record because you did not know what was going to happen where, and you wanted to make sure you captured it all. And so he's playing, and they say, after he's done, they say, Monk, well, what was that? What was that? And he said, well, where are we? And they said, Hackensack. And he said, that song's called Hackensack. And that became a famous recording as well, and done right in Van Gelder's studio. And Van Gelder really sort of took off in 52. Alfred Lyon of Blue Note Records started to record, and they were a smaller label. And then Bob Weinstock of Prestige Records also heard, and he actually saw the optometrist sign, and he was walking through town and he saw the optometrist sign, and he said, hey, he went in, are you the Rudy Van Gelder that records music? He said, yeah. He said, can I record? I know you record for Blue Note. Can I record there? He said, sure. I don't have an exclusive with them. So they both recorded there and many others. And essentially they would each sort of have a night, like Mondays would be Blue Note nights, and Wednesdays would be Prestige nights, and Impulse and Savoy and others recorded there. And they had different, Alfred Lyon and Francis Wolff were very particular about what they wanted, so they worked closely with Rudy. Weinstock was particular about his vision, but not about, he didn't get messed around with the nuts and bolts. And so you still hear what's the Rudy Van Gelder sound, even though those two sounds are different. So that to me fascinated me. And that this Blue Note sound, like what does that mean? How can there be a sound? And it's a sound that's a sensibility. And one critic I wrote, it's hot and warm and also cool, but never cold. So that's kind of something that, you don't know what it is, but you know it when you hear it. And I love, the appreciation that almost everybody who worked with Rudy had for his work. And especially because, when you're recording classical, there's a score and when the sound is going to rise. And so how to have the musicians pull back from the mics, or you pull the levels down. But jazz, based on improvisation, the sound levels alone are great challenges. Again, each instrument had its own challenge that they had to face. So in 59, he gave up his optometry practice, and he actually moved into another studio. And I'm just going to sort of cycle through in the last couple of minutes some of these other great photos from Francis Wolff. And here you see Coltrane, who recorded Love Supreme there. And I love, Rudy said, I never really listened to it until it was decades later when we were remastering. I was so busy pushing the knobs and buttons, and he was a jazz fan, but he never realized what he had really captured until decades later. And so again, you see Coltrane, Dexter Gordon, and I love the photos of them, like looking at the scores, looking at the notes, the backstage stuff, some of them eating and drinking and things like this. And Rudy's mother would bring out food spreads for them. Only complained once in all the years about those jazz musicians who were coming over the George Washington Bridge to record during the day before going in to gig at night. It just, to me, this is the vibrancy of what it's like to be involved in creating music and in the sort of community and the artistry. So in '59, he quits optometry and builds a new studio in Englewood Cliffs, which is still there. You can sort of see it in the background here. Well, first in the left, you see the television set. I love that in the back. But in the right, you see the ceiling, and you can see that here in this. And he built this. He was enamored with Frank Lloyd Wright's architecture and was involved in every detail. And one critic wrote that you snap your fingers or talk, and the sound appears to hang in the air momentarily, as if the rafters were evaluating the sonic quality before letting it go. And so he moves from this small living room to this beautiful, large cathedral-like space. And yet everybody said that both spaces had a live edge to them. Both of them carried that Rudy Van Gelder sound with them. So you can find his work on all over the jazz world, and I really encourage you to listen to it. And I think that's my time. And so next week I'll be back talking about Bruce Springsteen and the Upstage Club in Asbury Park. And I hope to see you folks then.
Professor McLeod, for that fun and informative presentation. I want to remind our viewers, if you have a question or comment, please type it into the comment section below, and we will do our best to answer it live tonight. Now we are going to turn to our musical guest this evening, B.D. Lance. Even if you never heard of jazz guitarist B.D. Lance, it's very possible that you have heard his music before. It's been featured on hundreds of TV shows around the globe, including Breaking Bad, Pawn Stars, and Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, to name a few. He's released 12 recordings of his unique brand of funky jazz that fuses virtuoso musicianship with expert songwriting. His latest, Soul Searching, was released in August of this year and is a solo guitar recording made during quarantine. When he is not touring overseas, his jazz trio, the New Jersey native, can be found playing around the New York, New Jersey region with many instrumental and vocal bands. Now sit back, enjoy your cocktail or favorite drink, and let's listen to B.D.'s music.
Hey there, everybody. My name is BD Lenz, and thank you for tuning in. I'm a guitarist, band leader based out of northern New Jersey, and I'm happy to be playing for you guys tonight. And I know the topic is about brain health and how music can help that. And I can definitely point to personal experience with this. I've been a very busy working musician for a long time. Last year, I did over 200 gigs, so I've been really, really busy. So you can imagine when lockdown happened, like many people, it was definitely a life change, and how to sort of find ways to cope with what was going on. I'm used to collaborating with musicians all the time, and that was sort of taken away. We found ways of doing it virtually, but of course it's not the same. And so I kind of found musical projects for myself to do, and one of them was making a solo guitar record. Again, I've been playing in bands for a really long time, and I'm used to playing with people all the time. And it was sort of in the back of my mind to, someday attempt to make a solo guitar record, which is really difficult. I don't sing, so this is just an instrumental record, just me and my guitar. And there's really no hiding in something like this. So it was a great creative project that I was able to take part in for myself. It kept me busy, kept me focused, and kept me creative. More importantly, I was definitely looking for things to keep me creative. So I made this solo guitar record a few months back, just in my house. Matter of fact, the song that I just played was actually the opening track. That's an original tune. It's called "It's a New Day." Most of the record is jazz standards and covers of popular music, but there is some originals. I'm going to play another one of those for you. This is actually a tune that I recorded years ago on an old album with a full band. And again, I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could pull it off solo. So this is a tune, it's an instrumental. It's called "Do You Ever Think About Me?" So yeah, that's an original of mine. It's called "Do You Ever Think About Me?" Again, it was recorded originally full band, and I'm trying to pull it off on solo guitar. I have a few minutes left, so I'd like to play something. We were talking about improvising and keeping creative. So I literally put this tune together about a half an hour ago, and I thought, let me improvise on something. So I wrote this little tune, and it's really kind of like a jam I'm going to play. Just so you know, I also have a little device that I'm going to use to record myself that I'm going to play along with. So when you see my hands doing something other than a guitar that's being played, I'm actually recording myself while I'm playing. So it is me. But this is a little jam I just made up. I need to retune really quickly. Okay. I don't have a name for this yet. There we go. Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you, BD, for that wonderful performance. And a special thank you for all our viewers for joining our second Melodies of the Garden State Facebook Live. Please join us again next week, Tuesday, September 29th at 5:30 p.m. on Facebook for more information on the connection between brain health and music, followed by another live performance. For more information on the power of music on the brain, please visit aarp.org/brainhealth. And again, that's aarp.org/brainhealth. There you can also download and read the full report from AARP-funded Global Council on Brain Health. And don't forget, if you have a favorite New Jersey-inspired cocktail recipe, please leave it in the comment section for us. It could be featured next week. Thank you again, and good night.